Welcome to another episode of SportsVibe, episode 89. I'm Arnav Sarkar here with Andrew Rice once again. A big episode here. We're actually recording this right after the playoff games today, so it's extra fun and extra instant in terms of our reactions. At least I'll probably have this up by tomorrow morning / afternoon or whenever I get the chance tomorrow. But either way, instant reactions for NBA Stanley Cup. I guess ideally, we would have had NBA and Stanley Cup preview, but the Knicks are still alive in the playoffs. So that one's going to six. But yeah, I mean, why don't we just start with that series because it's fresh in both of our minds. The Knicks facing elimination go out there and they win Game 5 at the Garden. Halliburton had 8 points. It's not really the best game. Ben Mathurin actually had a pretty big game for them. He had 23, Siakam had 15. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson was back on his game. He had 32. Karl Towns has been playing amazing this series, 24 and 13. Bridges and Hart played their supporting roles. They had 12 points apiece, and Anunoby 11. But just on the defensive side, the Knicks really stepped up. Game 4, it was a 9-point win for the Pacers, but it kind of felt like out of hand. Felt like even more than that. The Knicks weren't really going to get into that game. I guess just to recap this entire series, obviously the Game 1 Pacers coming back. Neesmith going nuclear, and then Halliburton hitting the shot, and they win that one. Game 2, another close one, but the Pacers kind of had more of a dominant control. Pascal Siakam had the big game. So going up 2-0 at the Garden. Neesmith and Halliburton going off in Game 1, and then Siakam in Game 2. And then Game 3, the Knicks were able to pull that one out at Madison Square Garden. Again, Karl Towns, Jalen Brunson, Bridges had big games. So 2-1. People thought maybe the Knicks could get back in the series. At Game 4, it was, even though a lot of the Knicks had good games, Bridges, Brunson, and Nobi, Towns, and Hart, I guess the big five, but the Pacers were able to pull that one through, and really with Siakam and Halliburton having 30-point games, Neesmith, Turner having good games, Ben Mathurin at 20, so that trend's continued. But it really looked like the Pacers had full control of the series going up 3-1, but the Knicks, playing a lot better of a game, on both offensively and defensively. They were just on top of the Pacers. They limited Halliburton to 8 points. Yeah, so it's been kind of a weird series. Like these playoff games, they swing from game to game, so we don't really know what's going to happen in Game 6. But I feel like if the Knicks play this type of effort, and this has kind of been missing for a lot of the series, I feel like, especially later on in the series. So if they can keep this up, there's no reason why they can't push it to 7. That being said, I feel like Indy's probably going to close it out. But if the Knicks can get back to the Garden for Game 7, then I think they have the momentum. So that's kind of like my thoughts. But the Knicks played a much more complete game. They had multiple solid performances, but really defensively it stood out because they held the Pacers to 94 points, and I think that was they forced a lot of turnovers too, and those are I think the big reasons why the Knicks were able to turn things around and get the game 5 victory.
Yeah, but the problem is with the Knicks, and it's the same thing in this series as it was in last series.
Yeah.
They are incredibly streaky. They are either the best team in the NBA by far with no
Mm-hmm.
contest, and they play I don't know.
When they're all clicking, it's hard to see who can beat them. Maybe the Thunder, but yeah, they're on fire. They have multiple double digit scorers. Their defense is good. Everybody's going off, like Bridges and Towns and Brunson. Then some games they're completely off their game, and they get blown out, and it's or they blow a lead. That's happened too. So it's just you don't really know which Knicks you're getting. That's kind of what I also said last series with the Celtics. That might have flown a little bit against Boston, but that's not really gonna fly with Indiana, and that's basically what's kind of happened. The games they've been on. The games they've not been on, the Pacers have kind of taken advantage of that, and that's why we're in the situation now where the Pacers are up 3-2 going home for Game 6. So do the Knicks have two more solid performances in them to really get over the hump. I mean, I don't know. I don't think so, but I mean, it's possible. Like they had their backs against the wall tonight. They won, but doing it in Indiana, where now they're gonna have the home court advantage. The same way the Knicks did tonight. Like I feel like that's like I said. I feel like Game 6 is gonna be the biggest challenge for the Knicks here, but if they can get through that, then I mean anything can happen in Game 7. Is like kind of my mindset going into this.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that to a point, but I don't know. It's like because in reality, like yes, Game 7, the Knicks should win that if they force it. However, you don't know which Knicks you're going to get in Game
Yeah,
6, and you
that's
know
true.
which Knicks you're going to get in Game 7.
That's true.
It's not like the Pacers are doing something that's throwing the Knicks off their game. It says that the Knicks are not playing up to their potential. The Pacers are just playing themselves over and over and over again. Whether the Knicks rise up to meet that challenge or just for some reason are off the mark, it's like
Yeah, that's the thing. The Pacers, at least they're playing consistently, whether they win or they lose. Like they're playing the same way. Like, they're. I mean, again, they have like a lot of offense. They're very good with that. Like, I mean, again, today was probably like their worst performance of the series, but even then, like they still had stuff going for them. I feel like this was their worst performance, and this was probably the next best. And most of the rest of the series though, like even Game 3 where the Knicks won, like I mean that was only a 6-point win. So like I feel like the Pacers are the more consistent team of the two. I mean this was probably the most off the Pacers and Halliburton are going to be, and I trust the Pacers to bounce back. And like again, we don't know which Knicks we're going to get in Game 6, and then we don't know which Knicks are going to get in Game 7. They could win Game 6 and they could go lay an egg at the Garden. I mean, look at like what happened last year with the Stanley Cup playoffs with the Oilers coming back down from 3-0. I was sure they were going to win the series when they tied it up. Nope. But then at least the Oilers are consistent. The Knicks are like so inconsistent. It's really hard to even predict it that far. And I mean, again, like I don't even know if they are going to get to Game 7 because I don't know. Like I just feel like with the home court environment in Indiana, the Pacers are going to bounce back. Can the Knicks live up to that, or are they going to get 20-piece? Like I feel like it could go either way. The Knicks might not just lose; they might lose the same way Indiana did this game. So without having like any trust in that, and then even if they do get through Game 6, like you don't know if they like you said they should win Game 7 at that point. They will have the momentum. They'll have the home crowd. The Garden will be like packed and swarmed. But again, they could lay an egg. So it's just hard because like. You have the Pacers up 3-2. They have 2 chances to close it out, and they're the more consistent team. So if the Knicks lay one more egg, they are done. So, but I mean, if they play like they did tonight, though, like then I don't really see why they can't win. I mean, if they could play this type of defense, if they can like score the ball at the rim like they did, if Karl Towns can have a big game, Brunson, like all their guys. I mean, they didn't even really need that much from Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and Anunoby, although it did help. But I mean, even if they just have another big Brunson and Towns game, and if their defense can play at this level, especially, I feel like that's gonna be what pushes them over the hump. It's just like you said, like I don't know if like I could really trust them to do it once, let alone twice. It's like definitely like a lot to ask for, I feel like, and that's what I think might do the next and within the next 2 games.
Hey, at least it's not a series that ends in 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be a little underwhelming, but
I'm
well,
talking about
yeah.
all the other series. Literally every other series.
Literally, all 3 of them between basketball and hockey. So at least this one pushes it to 6, makes it a bit more competitive. Even if the Pacers went 4-2, this was basically the best series. Like all the games pretty much were competitive. Like this one maybe not so much, but even this one wasn't like that uncompetitive. This was a solid series, and we get extended basketball going into Game 6. So the other 3 series, on the other hand, have been over in 5, so not quite the case there. Let's talk about the Western Conference finals now. Thunder obviously knocking off the Timberwolves 4-1. As I mentioned, 5-game series. This was just really like Thunder domination. Like pretty much from the start. Like I just feel like the Wolves didn't really have enough. The Thunder really reinforced from game one. Like they kind of built their momentum from game seven, from the Nuggets series. They really put it on the Wolves game one. I mean, just their dominant style of play. And the Pacers are dominant on the offensive end. The Thunder probably almost as good on the offensive end. They're really where they really stand out is on the defensive end, forcing turnovers, scoring in transition. In hockey's like there's a term on man rushes. It's kind of the same in basketball. Like they score a lot of they force a lot of turnovers and then they have a lot of 2-on-1s. They have a lot of transition points. But really from game one, even with Randall having 28, I mean Thunder diverse scoring effort. I mean, you have Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren's been playing good, Hartenstein, Shea Gilgeous with 31. I mean, he's the MVP. And then game two, they won again at home with Shea Gilgeous at 38, Jalen Williams 26, Chet Holmgren 22. So they've really been the big three. And once they were up 2-0, it's going to be a lot to ask for. The Wolves did have a 40-point blowout, in which I don't get why like that happens, where like there's just like one team wins by 30 and then the next one like the other team wins by like it just doesn't really make sense like how little correlation there are. But I guess it just happens with variety sometimes. It's just like some I guess once in a while
Also because
it's bound to
sometimes the
happen.
team could panic.
Yeah, like when one thing starts going wrong, like everything starts going wrong, and then the game kind of just undoes itself in a way. Like I've seen that a lot too. Like I guess it's like the early turnovers that the Thunder had that game. The Wolves just had like a standout performance. I mean, Edwards had 30, Julius Randle 24, McDaniels like they got scoring efforts off the bench, like left and right. So that one was over. But then the question was, well, can they really tie the series up? And a lot of people thought maybe, but I mean, the Thunder game four, like we were watching this one together over at Dave and Buster's. Every time the Wolves try to make a comeback, the Thunder squashed it. Shea Gilgeous had 40, almost triple double. Jalen Williams at 34, Holmgren 21. But yeah, I mean, a lot of Wolves also had a good game. Nikhil Alexander Walker with 23, DiVincenzo 21, McDaniels 22. But it just felt like every time the Wolves tried to cut the lead to 5 or to 3, the Thunder would push ahead by back to 7, back to 9, and one mid range shot at a time, or one foul at a time, is like with SGA. But I mean, we'll get to that a little later. But the Thunder really, every time the Wolves try to come back, Thunder put them at bay, and that's what a good team does. I mean, they're able to win the close games, but they're also able to win the blowouts. I mean, the Thunder have been they've won more blowout playoff games than anyone, and there's a reason for that. I mean, there's a reason they won 68 games, because they just know how to pour it on the other team, take away, like I've heard this on ESPN, but take away their joy, because they play such a defensive style of basketball, stealing the ball and scoring in transition, like I said, and then also having a solid offense to back it up. But Game 5 was no match at all. It was a really ugly game. It ended with a 30-point win for OKC, but it really was even more than that for a lot of the time. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all she wrote, I guess. SJ at 34. I mean, the Wolves, for the second straight season, down in the conference finals, down in 5. A little unfortunate, because I know a lot of people love Anthony Edwards and the young Wolves, and they're a really fun team to root for, even if you don't root for them. So it's caught on with a lot of people, and they have a bright future. They're a young team, up and coming. But I mean, the Thunder are like the ultimate bright future team. I mean, they're very young. They have 3 young stars with SGA, Holmgren, Williams, so many other players, Dort. I mean, and they have more draft picks coming, and it just seems like they got way ahead of schedule on their rebuild. That and some you could even argue that might still be going on, because they still have more draft picks. But they're in the finals. They're young. They're athletic, and they play like a style of basketball that I don't think any other team plays. Like in terms of their defense, like I've never really seen that. Like what I mean? Like it's usually the shooting or the scoring or something, but they are like all over the place. They're all over. Like the reason they win by this many points is because they're forcing turnovers. They're scoring in transition. They're attacking the basket. I mean, they keep. You know what I mean? Like they have 5 like really good defenders, and then on the offensive end they have capable shooters, scorers, and pretty much everything else. They have good rim protection. They have good big men, but like their ability to do it on both ends, I think, separates them, because I don't see any other team that really does that in the NBA, and I think that's why they're as good as they are.
Yeah. The Thunder really kind of hit the Wolves with the left right good night.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about a series, and I'll say this, um, those first two games that OKC won, obviously that they count, and obviously the last game counted as well.
Mm-hmm.
When OKC won Game 4, that series was over because
Yeah, that was
that
the
was the most. If you're a Wolves fan, that was the most demoralizing loss because every time the Wolves grew, just started pounding on the door, taking the lead, OKC would hit two shots in succession and just push back.
yeah.
That's like, if you're a Wolves fan, that was the most
It was
crushing,
heartbreaking.
crushing game of the entire series. Not the 30-point blowout, not the first two games.
Yeah,
That because that was in your building too,
yeah,
where
yeah.
they kept just every single time you got close, just pushed further and
Because
pushed
if
further.
yeah, I
It's like
agree.
chasing after something that's just not there. Like it's like you're chasing after like a ghost almost. You grab
Like a
it and it's just
shadow, or yeah, it's just it was. I mean, you saw me. Like, I mean, I'm not really even like a Wolves fan, but I was just like so like because that was basically the series right there and then. Like it was like you said, like that was just
right.
there's some games that are just out of reach, and like I was kind of saying, and some that aren't, and it felt like that that was a game that either team could have won, and that was like that could have really turned the series on its head. If they won that game, it would have been 2-2, and they
That
would have
game
won.
was right there. Like it wasn't like oh out of reach. It was like right there. They just
Yeah,
couldn't
it was
grab
there for
it.
the taking, and they were close, and they kept pushing. Then Thunder kept pushing back, and it was just once the Thunder won that, like you kind of knew they were through. I mean, that was just it was the gut punch. Yeah, it was just yeah, because if they won, they would have been 2-2. They would have went to Oklahoma City. Now, still, like the Thunder, I mean, we're probably gonna go up 3-2 and finish them in 6, maybe 7, but you don't really know. So, but now like that they didn't even have a chance to come back to Minnesota, losing that game in heartbreaking fashion. So yeah, I mean that felt like they had the effort that day. They had a chance to win the game. They really could have, and you need to win like the swing games in these series because not for some whatever reason, not all of them are, and in this series, like none of them were, except for that one, which is really bizarre because I feel like in the playoffs, like these games should be really close, and I don't understand why there's like, but in this case, I feel like it's because the Thunder were like the significantly better team. But yeah, I remember like last year Nuggets Wolves, like there was like blowouts going in the opposite direction like every night, and I was like, what the heck is going on? And then finally, I think Game 7 was a close game, and the Wolves won by like 10. And I was like, okay, so this is like a more accurate representation of like what's going on. This series, on the other hand, OKC was just a better team. So now when you have a game that you can win, like the Wolves really should have pounced on it. And they tried to. It wasn't really their fault. It's just the Thunder were just that they were able to win in the clutch, and I feel like that's good, but it's just they don't even really need to do that often because they tend to be so dominant. But against the Pacers or maybe even the Knicks, like they're probably going to have more clutch games where they're going to need to be able to win a close one. And I mean, maybe this is good experience for the finals because I can guarantee you that there isn't going to be like a pushover opponent in the NBA final, even for like a team like the Thunder. I mean, they're going to have to earn their wins. I think they're the better team, but I think they're not going to be able to walk all over, their opponent. And I guess that's a good segue to
Well, hold
previewing
on,
the finals real quick, I guess.
hold on. Let's not beat around the bush here. Minnesota was completely overmatched.
Yeah, that's what I
Like
was
let's
trying to
let's
say.
not let's not pretend like oh this was a series that fell on a knife's edge and both these teams are loaded with talent. Minnesota's young and they have a good base of talent.
Right.
They got into but when they got into that game, they were completely overmatched.
They were, yeah. And I think most of the teams in the conference would have been because I mean the Wolves dispatched the Lakers in 5, and
Obviously,
dispatched the Warriors in 5. Although I think with Steph, the Warriors could have either won or at least pushed it to maybe 6 or 7. I still feel like the Wolves probably would have won that one the way Jimmy Butler is playing. But regardless, the Wolves were better than a lot of teams in the conference, but not OKC. OKC's on a different level. So yeah, I mean they completely overmatched the Wolves with their relentless, ferocious style of defense and play on both ends, like I mentioned. But I don't think like they're going to be able to necessarily do that, especially if it's the Pacers in the finals. Like I feel like that, and even if they do, I mean, there's going to be these close games, so they're going to have to again win. There's going to be a game like Game 4. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 of them, and the Thunder are going to need to, win those games to win the series. So maybe for them it's good practice that they had one, but I feel like that's what separates a good team from a great team. Like you're able to win these tight games. Like yeah, sure, sometimes you get lucky, or sometimes they're just blowouts, but can you really win a game where your opponent's playing their best, but you're also playing your best? So I feel like they did that. They answered the call, and then Game 5 was kind of like they just kind of ran out of gas. Like the Wolves and the Thunder kind of took advantage of that, and they got the W.
Because I feel like after losing that Game 4, it's almost like it's over.
Yeah, because I feel like that was the one where they gave everything they had, and if they won it, it could have swayed the series, and they didn't. Now they're facing an uphill battle. They're like, well, we already gave it everything we had. Like, what more do we have to do? And then obviously, things fell apart. And that was in their building. This one went to Oklahoma. So yeah, that was their really best chance, because if they won that game, I mean, who knows? Like maybe they could have at least fought to win the series. But in this case, yeah, like all the air was like out of the balloon, and yeah, it was over. Like it was over. I mean, it was just that was their best shot. They Thunder withstood their best shot, and they didn't really have another one for Game 5. So that's basically it. So that's all she wrote, to use that saying again. But I guess to bring that now to bring this to back to the next Pacer series. I mean, we could do we can't really do a full like finals preview because we don't know the outcome, but I mean, the Thunder are in the finals. The Pacers are up 3-2. I mean, I'm assuming you're still gonna stick with your prediction with the Pacers in 6, and it looks like it very well could happen. But either way, like, what do you think is gonna happen? I mean, you have all these young teams. You have different styles of basketball. Like, I think the Pacers are number 1 offense, Thunder number 1 defense. The Knicks are still hanging around. Like, how do you think this goes down for the NBA Finals?
Yeah, and I really hate to say this because I do like the Pacers. I do, I watch them. They're a fun team to watch. I don't think anybody's beating OKC right now.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
Like in all honesty, I don't care if it's the Knicks. I don't care if it's I don't care if it's the Pacers.
Right.
I think it goes to at the furthest 6 games.
Yeah, I kind of have the same feeling. Yeah, I think me and you were talking about this too, but it's just the way like people feel like the Pacers are probably the better team against the Knicks, and it's like kind of like the same with like the Thunder and the Pacers, or the Knicks. And it's like the Thunder, and also the Thunder are like that much better, where there's even more of like a gap, I feel like, than with the Pacers and Knicks, and like, even with the Pacers playing more consistent, and it's like a styles contrast, but it's just again, like what I said, like they do it on both ends. Like they score really well. They have a lot of scorers. They do a variety of things, but where they really get you is their defense is like suffocating, and it's just like when they're doing that too, like it's just really hard to see like a team who could beat them in a series. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe a game or two, but not like a series. It's just the way that they force turnovers, they score transition buckets. I mean, they have a lot of 3-point shooters too, and scorers and SGA. I mean, they have everything you really want on a team. But like on the offensive end, I mean, they have versatility, shooting, rebounding, big men. I mean, they have. But really, when they could do it on both sides of the court, like I mean, no other team does this. Like it's just crazy. So I mean, it's just, can the Pacers keep up with that? Like I don't know. Like even if they do, like they're gonna have to like also play that type of defense too, and like that's very hard to see again for like a full series. Yeah,
I will be sad if the Pacers lose, but I won't be angry if the Thunder win, if that makes sense.
that makes sense. Like
I think that I will be kind of pissed off if the Knicks beat the Pacers, which I don't think is going to happen. I made that pretty clear. But in all honesty, because I kind of like the play style of OKC a lot more than other teams. I kind of enjoy that throwback basketball. We're both
It
Rutgers
feels like
fans.
90s basketball in a way.
We're both Rutgers fans, so we know pickleball.
Right, right.
Punch you in the mouth kind of
Hmm.
defense,
Yeah.
look at everything, try to beat you in transition.
Yep.
In all honesty, it just feels like what OKC does is just a super evolved version of pickleball.
Yeah, with probably better, with better talent, basically. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it does feel like that, and maybe a little bit more like scoring too on the offensive end. But yeah, I totally
Well,
agree.
obviously, I would hope so.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't be scoring like 65 points a game in the NBA, like, but but like, I mean, like, not
Yeah.
anything else, but like entirely. But no, yeah, you're totally right. They do play that same type of, like grinded out games, like, wear you out in defense and
Right.
yeah, but just with more talent and probably more and a bit more offense as well. But on the defensive end, they definitely do represent like a Rutgers team. So that is cool to see because you don't. I mean, yeah, you don't really see that in the NBA. It's a very offensive minded league. It's a
Hmm.
very shooting 3-point shooting oriented league, but offensive minded in general, and it brings a different flavor. So, like I said, it's going to be very hard to combat. Yeah, I guess my prediction is probably like the same as yours. Like I think the Pacers are gonna pull this one out, and whether it's 6. Again, like I said, if they go back to Madison Square Garden, then I mean there really should not be a reason why the Knicks lose, but there's also the pressure of the moment. There's also like the inconsistency. So like you can
There's
never
also
say
just
for
the Knicks being the Knicks and liking to twist the knife in their fans' hearts.
oh my god, that too. Like it just like it could just be a gut wrencher. Like they could just they could win game 6 and come up flat in game 7 and lose and kind of break Knicks fans' hearts. And I feel like Nets fans would have a good time with that, to be honest with you. Like if that kind of
You
thing
know,
does
I would.
happen, like yeah. But either way, I mean I feel like the Pacers are gonna win next game, not 7 in the series, and then the Thunder are gonna win and yeah, I think 6. I think the Pacers are good enough to get a couple games. Like I do because they have a really good offense. They have Halliburton's probably gonna have a couple big games. I mean, they have versatility. They have scoring. I mean, Neesmith is probably gonna have a game where he goes off. Like I think they're gonna be able to line it up and get like a couple games, but not enough to win the series. So yeah, I think the Thunder are gonna pull this one out in 6. I mean, I guess another thing about if it is the Pacers and the Thunder, and I guess we're making a little bit of projection, but what do you think about it being like a small market finals? I feel like a lot of people are going to frown upon that for the, kind of like the wrong reasons, I guess. But I feel like for me, it's all about the styles of basketball, and it's all about whether the basketball is going to be good or not, as opposed to the markets. I mean, 2 years ago, we saw Denver versus Miami, and those aren't exactly the biggest markets. And I mean, I guess it was a 4-1 finals, but I feel like I mean, they still had like Nikola Jokic against Jimmy Butler. There's some good storylines, but this year we're taking it to another level if it's Oklahoma City and Indiana. But at the same time, they have, you have SGA and Halliburton, 2 stars that a lot of people probably may or may not like. But at the same time, you have like 2 really good teams. Still some star power in it, and more importantly, it's going to be good team oriented basketball, and I feel like that's like the most important thing, you know what I mean? So I feel like I mean, it might be Indiana versus Oklahoma City, but you take that out of your mind and you just watch the games, and like I feel like if you're a real basketball fan, like you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you're talking, I mean, either way, you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah,
It's going to be a good match. It's not going to be this win in 5, completely dominate the Minnesota
that's true.
Timberwolves.
Yeah, and I think after the playoffs, the way that they've been, like we could use like a good competitive series, and like I feel like the Thunder and Pacers, like I think that would pull either way, like you said, like if the Knicks also win, that would be pretty fire too. But if the Thunder and Pacers, I feel like you're getting the 2 best teams in basketball, and you're getting different styles. You're getting the number 1 offense versus number 1 defense, and 2 like of the most team oriented teams that don't like solely rely on like a star, although they do both have them. And I feel like I mean, that's gonna make for good basketball. I feel like that, maybe, I mean, it might not be the biggest teams, but I feel like that maybe, more teams should be like that in a way. And you're seeing why those styles succeed. So I feel like, either way, it's gonna be a good series, regardless of like the markets or whatnot. But yeah, I mean, in terms of other storylines, it would be like I guess the Paul George NBA Finals because he was a long time Pacer and Thunder player, had success with both teams, stuff like that. There's not really too much you could do with it, but the Thunder were in the finals like 10 years ago with Westbrook, Harden, and Durant. So like having this young core, and again, it's all about team basketball. It's all about styles. It's all about who's been the best two teams, and I think that's going to deliver. Now again, I was saying the same thing about the Super Bowl, which a lot of people again did not like the matchup, and me being like a Giants fan, like obviously the Eagles winning, but like the one thing I did anticipate was, and a lot of people hated the Chiefs too because of the way they were winning games and like the Taylor Swift stuff. There's just like a heck of a lot going on with Kansas City and how dominant they previously were. So a lot of people hated one or both of those teams, but I was like, it's going to be a really good game. I mean, these two teams are like really good, and then like the Eagles demolished them. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the NBA. Otherwise, that would be very disappointing. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, markets aside, like I feel like we're going to get good basketball, and I feel like if you really are an NBA fan, for the right reasons, like you're gonna enjoy it. And I think that's the most important thing this time of year. You really want to have a good series and enjoy the games.
Yeah, really. I mean, just no matter who you get, none of them are going to be a cakewalk for the Thunder. Let's be real here.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, the Knicks or the Pacers, either way, either way they're gonna be fine. So I mean, not fine, but like they're gonna be competitive. Yeah. So I guess with that being said, we could transition over now to the Stanley Cup. This matchup is set. But before we do that, let's just take a look at the conference finals. We could start with Florida versus Carolina. Right from the start, just an onslaught for the Panthers, 5-2. And then 5-2, a win in Carolina to open it up. 5-0 shutout in Carolina again. Then they go to Florida, 6-2. That was a domination. I was watching part of this game. I mean, the shots just kept going in the third period. I think the Canes had it tied up, and they just kept, again, having a transition takeaways, and they just kept scoring, and everything seemed to be going in for some reason. Then game 4, so I guess people maybe thought they were on their way to a sweep, but Florida or the Hurricanes win their first conference finals game in like
God knows how long.
Since like 2006 or something. I don't understand how you make it that far and then you get swapped not once, but like 3 times in that series. It's like there's some sort of
might have been like 4.
Yeah, like almost 4. They were 0-13, I think. They lost 13 in a row in the conference finals. They got
that means they got swept 4 times.
Almost, yeah, I think 3 times, and then but they broke that streak. They won 3-0, and yeah, I mean Anderson, like he played good. I mean they had all 3 goals, Aho, Stalin, Stankoven, and it looked like they kind of had the momentum on their side game 5 too. They got off to a 2-0 lead, and then the Panthers came back, took the lead in the second period. They're up 3-2. They were able to get the 4th goal of the game as well, even after Carolina tied it up, and then they put them away. Bennett had a goal, Kachuk had a goal, Lundell had a goal, Rodriguez and Verhage had a goal as well, and Bobrovsky, I mean, he had a solid performance. I mean, he let 3 go by, but the Panthers able to close it out in enemy territory in Carolina. 4-1 win for the Panthers, and again, they play like really good team hockey. That first line, like with Kachuk and their line in particular is like very solid. I mean, they have a really good goaltender who's I mean, yeah, probably second to none in the league, at least in the playoffs, the way he's been playing now. And I mean, yeah, they just look really good. Like, I mean, they have so many different guys who could score goals. Like, I mean, and that's what's really like stood out in these playoffs. I mean, that's why they have like 5-0, 5-2, 6-2, like in the series, because anyone can get it. Like Barkov had 2. Well, this was looking at game 3, but I mean, Barkov had 2, Mikkel had 2, Boquist had 1. I mean, Marchand had 1. That's a big piece that they added from the Boston Bruins. And then in the last game, Verhage had 1, Rodriguez had 1. I mean, obviously Kachuk is huge. I mean, it's just there's just so many. Even the defensemen have been scoring goals. I mean, they have Lester Ryan, they have Gadjevich. I mean, Forrest Lang. They have just so many different players. They play really relentless on the defensive end too, even more than the Hurricanes. So I mean, but yeah, I mean they're a really good team on both sides. I mean this series really showed it. They dominated. They scored a lot of goals. They didn't allow a lot of goals in, and that's pretty much what you want at this time of year. They're a very solid team. Like I don't really know what else to say. I'm just more surprised that the Hurricanes kind of got themselves kind of blown out in the conference finals. Like I didn't really.
Should we be surprised anymore, though?
We
Like, at
really
this
shouldn't,
point,
but
it's
it's
like,
just embarrassing because they
you
knocked
got
off the Devils 4-1. They knocked off the Capitals 4-1. So I thought they had something going this time around. But I don't know. Is Florida really that much better than everyone? Or like
no,
Hurricanes just sell? Is my question.
no. Every time, it's just every time that the Hurricanes get
Fair
to
enough.
the conference finals, they act like a wet pool noodle.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
to be fair, like Florida and in the Toronto series, I mean, like they were down 2-0, and then they came back and Toronto choked. And I mean, the
Well,
last game 5 and 7, they won 6-1, and I feel like that's where they really got their mojo from, because that kind of showed up again in this series where they just dominated on both sides of the ice and they won road games. And I feel like it's kind of similar to the NBA, like in a way, it's kind of similar to the Thunder Nuggets series, because that was a tough, hard fought series. They got through. They had a dominant Game 7 win, and then they kind of rolled through this one. And that's what happened with the Panthers too. They like kind of had a tough series with the Leafs. They got through it, and then this one comes around and they kicked the teeth out of the Hurricanes. For any Devils fans watching or anyone who's enjoying that, yeah. But like, I mean, a great showing by the Cats, and I think they are absolutely ready now for the Stanley Cup Finals.
yeah, the Panthers found their mojo by Toronto choking. Isn't
Yeah,
that just
pretty much.
poetic?
I guess so. Yeah.
If you remember, like when Tampa Bay won their cups back to back in the
Mhm.
back to back, who they play in the first round? They played Toronto.
Right.
And who lost in Game 7? I think in both of them when holding a lead.
Toronto.
Toronto.
Well,
And,
Toronto's the ultimate chokers. Yeah, but
right.
it's crazy. I don't know, man.
It
Like,
feels like if Toronto chokes to you, you have a very good chance of making the Stanley Cup.
yeah. And this is the first time a Florida team's going to be in 4 years. Like the Lightning obviously won 2 cups, or three, or well, 2 out of 3, I think. And then they were in the Cup final 3 years in a row. And then now the Panthers, they lost to Vegas 2 years ago 4-1. They come back, they win, they knock off Edmonton last year in 7, and now they have a rematch.
I
So
think
that's
it's
another
5 years
story.
in a row,
I think
right?
so. I think this is like the 6th, honestly. If I'm
Tampa
not
Bay,
mistaken.
Florida. Tampa Bay wins, Florida loses, Florida wins, and now it's going to be Florida again.
Yeah. I think it might have even, this might be the 6th year too, because like that they're in it at least. But because I think Tampa also had the year they lost too or something like that. But
I thought that was like 2018.
yeah, well,
Let me take a guess.
I'm seeing that this is the 6th year in a row they're representing the East, which is interesting, because I guess there was also the year they lost to Colorado, and then the Panthers got in the next year. So
Wait, how was it? How does it go though? Like, list it off in order.
um trying to like look that up so I know for sure. But
Hold on.
well, Tampa Bay won. Who'd they beat the first year? Because I remember they beat Montreal, and then they beat someone else too.
Hold on. Because now I'm questioning everything. Oh, right. Okay. All right. Gotcha. Hold on. What is this? Okay. Yeah, so it was Florida beat Florida beat what's it called? Beat the Edmonton.
Right.
Florida lost to Vegas.
Yeah.
Colorado Tampa Bay lost to Colorado, and then
Yeah.
Tampa Bay beat Montreal, and Tampa Bay beat Dallas.
Right, Dallas. Yes, yeah. So this is gonna be year 6 of a Florida team now in the Stanley Cup. That's
Florida's got to be a
crazy.
hockey state now,
It
right?
is, has to be. Forget about how far south it is, but they've been killing it. I mean, this is the 6th year
Well,
in a
you know how
row.
many snowbirds move down there anyway.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. And I thought Tampa Bay was gonna be the talk of the town for a while, going to 3 Cup finals, winning 2 of them, then kind of losing the last one. It's kind of like the dynasty went cold, and then Florida, the first year was kind of out of nowhere too. I mean, they barely stuck in the playoffs. They beat an all-time really good Boston Bruins team in round one, and they took it all the way. Then they lost to Vegas in 5, and then last year they get over the top of the mountain. They knock off Edmonton, and now they have a rematch. So let's see what happens. Now we haven't even gotten to the West yet. Edmonton knocking off Dallas in a similar. Well, I shouldn't even say similar. It's the same amount of games, a five game series, and well, the Stars actually got the first win of the series. Unlike the Florida series, they won 6-3. But then, so good effort over there. And Seguin had 2 goals. Duchesne had 1. Heiskanen had 1. Granlund had 1. But since then, it was just reverse of that. The Oilers won Game 2, so they got they got their one in Dallas that they needed. And then they come home. And with a 6-1 domination over Edmonton, or I mean, not Edmonton, over Dallas, to open up the 2-game set in Edmonton, and that one McDavid had 2 goals, Hyman had 2 goals, Bouchard had 1, Klingberg had 1, and then from there they just rolled over. I mean, Game 4, another dominant 4-1 win, and then Game 5, 6-3. So they reversed the score of Game 1. I mean, again, McDavid had a goal, Janmark had a goal, Kapanen, who I believe is kind of one of the younger players, had 1, Kane had 1, Perry had 1, Skinner had 1.
I don't think
Jeff Skinner had 1. That doesn't make, maybe not. Maybe he's just new to the team, but I don't know. I thought I saw his name. No, he's not young. He's been there for a while. He's 28. So there's Jeff Skinner.
You're probably thinking of Kako.
Maybe, that's okay. Kako. I might be thinking of someone different. Yeah. And then their goalie, I guess, Stuart Skinner, who didn't really have the greatest of regular seasons, kind of cleaned it up more recently, although he did have 3 goals in today. But either way, Edmonton getting through, kind of like Florida, they have a lot of goal scorers too. Obviously, their top line's very productive with McDavid, Draisaitl, and company. But I mean, they have a lot of different guys. They've also been pretty dominant the same way the Panthers have too. So I mean, similar score lines, 4-1, 6-1, 6-3, 3-0. I mean, they seem to be able to put pucks in the net and stop the other team, basically. And I know I'm making it sound very simple right now, but they're doing it both at a very high level right now. They're scoring a lot and they're saving a lot. So it seems like we're getting to, again, like basketball, we're getting the 2 best teams in the playoffs, and now they score off. So who do you think is more dominant, I guess, is going to be like the next question.
Who do I think is more dominant over Edmonton or
Florida? Yeah. That's hard.
I mean, I don't want to say this. Actually, I don't really care all that much. I mean, I know there's like this whole thing like, hey, let's not let Canada win the Stanley Cup. Whatever. But in all honesty, like, I think it's Edmonton's year, man. I mean, Stuart Skinner keeps pulling off his nonsense where he looks like garbage throughout almost the entire season, and then turns it on during the playoffs. It's so frustrating, man. But I think if he's going to play the way that he's playing, and if they're going to continue to do their thing on offense,
right?
They might even roll over the Cats if I think about it.
Maybe, I don't know, but can you also argue that the Panthers have been like as dominant too, like on both sides, like, or
no,
not?
I can't, because it's almost like you can't even like consider Carolina a good series, because like every time they get into the conference finals,
that's true,
they get crushed. So you have to look at the series before that. I mean, they struggled mightily against Toronto. And they gave up the first win in 12 years or whatever to line the playoffs.
That's true.
Maybe they don't have it. I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird to say. I feel like, I mean, I see your point. Like, I mean, with the Hurricanes, but I mean, Dallas also, like, whatever. But like they also kind of struggle in that series. But
I
I
don't think
don't
they
know. Like
didn't struggle against Dallas. No.
I mean, they didn't. No, they didn't struggle. I mean, Dallas I guess struggled against them, but like they didn't. Neither of these teams really struggle. But I guess if you look back to the last series, um, well, the Oilers took down the Knights in 5 as well, and that was a team that people really thought was also very good, and probably thought would maybe even beat the Oilers, and they pulled that one through. And then the Leafs were probably supposed to not really have much of a chance, and they took Florida to the brink of elimination before Florida obviously pelted it on them. So
Before
yeah, I mean I see the
Toronto.
Oilers. Sorry, yeah, yeah, the Leafs. Yeah, I mean that's a whole different conversation, but they really had they were very close to pulling that one out, and then Florida, like I said, they found their groove. And then that kind of continued in this one, and they rolled them over. So we have a rematch. So game one's on June 4th in Edmonton, Wednesday. So that's where it starts. And game one for the NBA is Thursday, and June 5th. So a very exciting time of year going on right now, actually. But yeah, it's like one of my favorites. But in terms of the series, like I don't know. So I guess like if we were both to make predictions, like I mean, like I guess you go Edmonton then.
I'd go Edmonton in 6.
Edmonton 6. It feels like there's also a revenge aspect of it, where like Florida won last year, and I mean that doesn't really mean anything, but it's just who's the better team. I mean, there's I guess the way the series kind of ended with Hurricanes getting a 3-0 win, and even 5-3. Like the Hurricanes were very much more in the game, like compared to the first three, where it was very dominant. So maybe some of that could potentially carry over, but man, I don't know. Like I don't know if I agree. Like I mean, I don't know. I feel like I want to be contrarian because I feel like it could be another 7 game series. I feel like the Panthers could pull it out. I don't know why. There's just something about this team. Like I don't know what it is, but I don't know. The Oilers have also been very very good, but I don't know. I feel like for the sake of argument and for this episode and for their playoff run, like I'll just go with the Cats in 7. But if the
Yeah,
Oilers
well,
get
you're wrong.
all right, well we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I just don't trust the Oilers after last year. Like I don't know if that's also another part of it that
That could be. I mean,
I'm
yeah.
having trouble after they lost in 7, and it's not even that. It's just that the Cats have been so good. Like, and maybe I've also watched more of it too, being like a hater of the Hurricanes and whatnot than the Oilers series. But just their style of hockey is like very conducive to winning. Like I said, they have so many goal scorers. Bobrovsky's playing at such a high level. I feel like some of this just continues. I don't know why, but I just feel like it does. You know what I mean? Like. So yeah, that's my prediction. I'm gonna go with the Oilers, or not the Oilers, the Panthers in 7. I want to say 7. Yeah, because I feel like it could go either way, but I feel like the Panthers they get a jump on the series by winning one if not 2 in Edmonton, and maybe one in Edmonton, and they, maybe they go up 3-1. I don't know, like me, who knows what happens. But I think they win a hard fought series, they get the cup. I just feel like they're playing too good not to, and as much as I'd probably also want to see Canada win the cup again, or well maybe I don't, but like I mean I don't know as much
I
as
don't want to see Canada win the cup
nah,
again. I just go by who I think is going to win.
you're right, but like I just feel like I don't know. Maybe I just don't trust Edmonton. I trust Florida more. Maybe I just they're playing so whatever, whatever it is. Like I'm gonna go with the Cats in 7, but this is subject to change based on the way the series goes. Because whoever gets a jump on the series first is gonna be up. But yeah. So I mean, I think that would be good. Also, if we have one go one way and one go the other way, because I feel like this series could really go either way. So I think that sums that up. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. Kind of similar to NBA, like markets aside, and although Edmonton is kind of a big hockey market anyway, but like it should be good hockey. I think these really are the best 2 teams on either side. I think that really showed out in the conference finals, and hopefully that means a more even series this time around. And I think like last year's Cup Finals are going to be getting a good one. But I guess yeah. I mean, other than that, I guess just to touch on baseball real quick. The Yankees, are red hot right now. They're 9-1 in the last 10, 35-20. They have a big set coming up with the Dodgers. They've been on a tear this West Coast trip, although they dropped the one to the Rockies, who are like the worst team in baseball, as we've mentioned. They are now 9-42. But other than that, the Yankees won the next two, and then they won three against the LA Angels, and now a World Series rematch against the Dodgers. Yeah. So I mean, that should be. I mean, the Tigers are still doing good as well. The Phillies are, but I mean, in terms of this World Series rematch for the Yankees, like I guess it's their time to, kind of like the Mets series. It's like another one of those series where you want to make a statement. They're not really like a rival, but I feel like it would be good for them to go out there and take two of three if they can.
Always good to send the Mets fans home crying.
Yeah, also that was a really good Subway Series win, so they can't act like they're big brother now, so which is nice. But in
They
terms of the Dodgers, like revenge aspect here, obviously, and again, it could be like the two best teams or two of the best teams in baseball, and there could be postseason implications. Maybe not from a 3-game series necessarily, but the Mets are going to play the Dodgers again right after that series, which they just played them in New York, so that's interesting too, actually, I guess. But yeah, no, I mean, it should be a good 3-game set, I guess. Hopefully, the Yankees gets some revenge for that. But I guess what I did want to talk about, well, before we end this episode, Rutgers. Well, first of all, the college football schedule for Rutgers is, I mean, the times are somewhat out. I mean, not all of them because they're gonna announce the other ones later. But I mean, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, Rutgers football. I mean, they have a few interesting games. I mean, they have multiple Friday night games, 3 primetime games, as you mentioned. I mean, they have Iowa on Friday night, Big Ten opener. That's huge. They have, um, a road game at Washington on Friday, and then a Saturday night homecoming game against Oregon. Or it's not really night; it's like evening, 6:37. But that's going to be interesting because homecoming, I feel like, is always 12, 3:30. But like they really want to have this place juiced up for like a big showdown against the Ducks, who are one of the top teams in the conference. So they really want to make sure that Rutgers has, I guess, the best chance possible. And I mean, what do you think about all of this? And this is very exciting stuff. I love the night games. They do a really good job with it. Blackout is a lot of fun, even if you're not really into college football or, but it's really, really fun. And having it come, it's probably going to be the Iowa game. Last year was a Washington game. So, I mean, well, first of all, I mean, the season opens up with Ohio, Miami, Ohio, and Norfolk State. So, in all likelihood, that's going to be 3 wins. So your place is going to be jazzed up for Rutgers, Iowa. I mean, the Hawkeyes also might be coming in 3-0, although they have, an Iowa State test, which is going to be a top, 50-50 game. But then, I mean, 2 years ago, Rutgers was in a similar position, or 3 years ago, where they had Iowa as the home opener. They kind of struggled through a non-conference slate, but went 3-0. But then they fell to Iowa, and it was a little bit demoralizing. And it feels like Iowa, for whatever reason, is like a little bit out of reach. Like they play like similar style football to Rutgers, but they're just a little bit better. So it's always like a big measuring stick game for Rutgers because they really shouldn't be like too much better, but then they end up being for some reason. So it's always like if Rutgers could really close the gap with them, then they could really take that next step, and they can also get to 4-0. So I mean, I feel like that's first of all that's going to just be like such a huge game for the Scarlet Knights.
Well, if you recall that game a couple of years ago, that Rutgers team turned out to be really bad.
Yeah, they were awful. They were like 4-8, and they
They
barely
had
even
no
won. They
off.
barely even beat Temple. Like so, which it should have been a big wake up call. To be completely honest with you.
They had no offense.
Yeah, it was a nightmare, and
If
that
you
only got
remember
worse.
that Nebraska game, they didn't run up the score on us. The defense was
No,
there. It's just
yeah,
we could not find the end zone.
yeah. The 14-13 won a couple weeks later. That was also very, very rough considering they also had the lead 13-0 in that game too, and then that was frustrating. The 22-0 loss might have been a little bit more surprising, the one in Iowa, because Rutgers was coming off a loss, but like surprisingly competitive one against Ohio State the week before, and they kind of put up 0 points the next week, and it's just like, but it's kind of like what happened. It feels like Rutgers to Iowa is kind of like Iowa to Penn State, or like something like that, where they
The
like
Penn State to Ohio State.
yeah, there's always like this like little brother feel where it's just like whatever they do is not good enough, and like that it's just weird because they could easily beat the team right below them, but not the one like
Not right above them.
which
No,
is very weird, especially when it happens on multiple levels where it's like Ohio State, Penn State, Penn State, Iowa, Iowa, Rutgers, Rutgers,
I
Ohio, you know what I mean? Or like whatever like the next level of that is. But it's weird, but like you know what I mean? But It's like a Super Bowl type game. It
If
was
we had
very
a little
weird.
brother, if we had a little brother team, quote unquote, it would be the Purdue Boilermakers.
Yeah,
Never
in the
lost.
Big Ten. Yeah.
Rutgers has never lost to the Purdue Boilermakers in the entirety of their history. They are 3-0 against the
It's very
Boilermakers.
interesting, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we play them again this year too, and they have
they're
also
probably
not.
going to win again this year because holy crap, that team is bad.
No, they went 1-11 last year. They were god awful. So yeah, I mean, I would hope so because yeah. Well, other than that, I mean, so I mean, they really do need to start the season 3-0. I mean, Purdue and Maryland, and then to get to bowl eligibility, I mean, rematches on the road, Minnesota, Washington. I feel like they're gonna need, I mean, one of those, but I mean, ideally they get both and they get to 7, and then you have the big brother games against Iowa and Illinois, and then the ones that seem completely out of reach, which are Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State. So that's
I'm going to give you my I'm going to give you my I'm going to give you my definite wins, my toss-ups, and my definite losses.
all right.
Okay?
Yeah,
Definite wins are the first 3 games of the season and
yeah,
Purdue.
yeah.
I really cannot see a scenario where we lose all those games.
No, I don't think so either.
Your toss-ups, you're looking at Iowa, Maryland, Illinois, um, and Washington and
Yeah,
Minnesota.
in Minnesota, but I feel like they're kind of like different levels. Like I feel like Maryland's almost like slightly more winnable. Minnesota and Washington are almost true 50-50s. Iowa and Illinois are like kind of like
Slated against us.
possible, but like they're kind of like we're the underdogs. It's pretty clearly defined, but
But I will
they
say,
could be winnable. They are toss-ups. There's no like writing either team out of the equation in those.
with having Iowa, like I said, Illinois, Maryland,
Hmm.
Minnesota, and Washington. Did I miss any?
No, those are the 5. Yeah,
Those are the 5 toss-ups. We need 2. We can go 2-3
that's
in those
true.
toss-up
That's
games,
true. If we win the first 4, yeah.
and I would consider this. I would consider 6-6 with this more difficult schedule a successful season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Hopeful
would
seven,
consider
but
six
yeah,
and
I
six in a
would
bowl
too.
game.
I would. Yeah, I
There's a
agree.
very good chance we go 6-6. Let's say we win that bowl game and we're exactly where we were last year, which I'm okay with.
Given the tougher schedule, yes. Yeah, like I said, I think like you said, those 4 games, the first 3 in Purdue, Maryland, I think they have to win, and I guess they either split Minnesota or Washington, or ideally they get both. Like that's probably the most realistic, optimistic situation because I think yes, they could potentially go out there and beat Iowa or Illinois, but that's kind of wishful thinking given what we've seen. So an 8-4 season, I think, would almost be like a dream season. Like,
That's like
you
the
know,
ceiling, I would say.
yeah, that's the ceiling. 9-3 is like kind of like fantasy, and like 8-4 would be like the ceiling, and then like the floor would probably be like 5-7 if everything goes wrong or something like that. Maybe 4-8.
No.
Yeah, well, maybe. Who knows? But and then we have these tough games: Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. I don't really think there's too much of a chance, but they do have 2 of those at home, which both of them are going to be jazzed up environments. Oregon for homecoming night game. You know how Rutgers fans feel about Penn State. But that should be a
Senior
fun
night.
one. What?
Penn State on senior night too.
And on senior day, exactly. So many people and people are going to be there, and it's just going to be great. I mean, I feel like I might have something else on my mind other than the score of that game, but that's for another time. But
I will say, there's one thing that we're completely missing when it comes to the fact that we have 3 night games. If you
I love
remember
night games.
correctly,
I really do. But yeah, go
what's
ahead.
up?
No, I mean I really love night games, and it goes back to I guess me being in the band and just as a fan and everything. It's so much fun. It's the
The
lights are
pageantry
on.
is
The
unmatched.
pageantry is even better than usual. There's more time to tailgate and get ready, and yeah, especially if it comes with a win. But like last year's Washington game was just chef's kiss. It was just like it could not get better than that. The
That
pageantry, the
was such
light
an
shows,
experience.
everything. But having, like you said, having with 3, I mean, I guess
But
even the opener too is kind of a night game. It's like what's it, 6 p.m. versus Ohio, like
there's a
kind of like
point that
evening. Yeah.
we're not mentioning here at all, and
Okay.
it's
Go
something
ahead.
that has to be mentioned. If you remember, for the longest time, I don't know if you were a fan necessarily at this point. from like 2018 to like 2022, 2023, Rutgers either, number one, did not get a night game,
Right.
or their night game was at somebody else's field,
Right.
or their night game was like against like Temple at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I remember
The
that one.
fact,
I think yeah.
the fact that we have two night games at home and
Right.
their Big Ten opponents,
Oregon and Iowa, and those
the
are
only
two
thing
big time opponents, big time games. I mean,
you
even
have to,
Ohio, like I feel like it's going to be a fun but interesting tune up. I feel like that's not going to be as one sided as people think it is. Ohio's a very good team for their standard. That being said, Rutgers I think is going to win, and same with the
it's a
next year.
respect thing. It's a
Yeah.
respect thing.
It is a respect thing, but I do respect them in more of a sense than just they're a football team. Like I think they are respectable in terms of like they could put up a good fight. That being said,
I'm
I
not
think
talking about Ohio though. I'm talking about
Rutgers pulls
Rutgers
away.
getting night games at home
Oh, okay,
against
I
Big
got
Ten
you. Yeah,
opponents.
I think now Rutgers does get more respect too because like they've proven it, and yeah, because I remember like I think when they had the game against Iowa 2 years ago, that was a night, or 3 years ago now, that was a night game. That was the first one they had in like 5 years, and
I
everyone
don't
was
even
super
think that was a
excited.
night game though. I think that was like 3:30. It was just later on in the year. I don't know. I could be wrong.
No, the one in Piscataway, like 3 years ago.
That wasn't.
That one. It was. I remember because I was in the band. It was like the first night game in a very long time, like I think 5 or 6 years, and then
Yeah, right.
yeah,
And
and
then,
then Nebraska happened like I think 2 weeks later or something, which was pretty cool too. But yeah,
but also like, not only did Rutgers do it by getting better on the gridiron, the fans did it by
by
having an
showing up.
amazing atmosphere at the Washington game. People took note of that.
That's
So
true,
the truth of the matter is, you know,
and having it nationally
everybody
televised and everything too, like on
right.
Fox and
But
all of that.
everybody was like, "Oh, like there was all over social media, and I'm sure you saw because you were a fan at the time. Everyone
Hmm.
was posting like, get to the stands at 7:30. Everyone
Oh
get
yeah,
like
there's a surprise. Yeah.
they shouldn't need to do that. You should already be there by
That's true.
7:30,
For a big
half an
game
hour
like
before the
that,
game.
8
You
p.m.
should be in your
kickoff.
seat.
That's
You
true.
know,
But they had a reason for that too, which was pretty sick with the Aeropostale or whatever that show was. But yeah, I agree. Like you should be there. You should be
but
there.
that's how like everybody was like taking this like super seriously. Like we need to show up. We need to show up in force. But that shouldn't be just for a night game. That should be for a noon game against Minnesota.
That's
You know,
true. Yeah, you're right.
Rutgers fans need to get their butt in that stadium because I
I
know that
know.
Rutgers fans are out there. They just don't get their butt in that
They
stadium.
don't. Sometimes they don't, or they do late. It is what it is. But hey, I mean, the more winning they do, the better. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I feel like that Ohio game could be like not like not like they're gonna lose, but I feel like it could be sneaky good. And then I think they're gonna settle. They're still gonna win by like double digits, but then they're gonna settle in, and then Iowa's just gonna be huge. And if they can somehow pull that off, it's gonna be great. And then Minnesota and Washington are gonna be out for revenge after what happened last year. And then Oregon is gonna be huge too. And then Purdue should be a win. And then the last month of the season at Illinois. So another one where now Rutgers might be looking for some revenge. They came very close to beating them, and they probably should have last year. Except for the timeout.
Absolute
Happened.
horrifying game.
Oh my God! Don't even get me started.
It'll live in infamy.
Ugh, and then the call after the timeout, blitzing in that position. Like there was just no need for that. Like I mean, they had the game. Even then, like even if they just played prevent defense, like they probably would have won that game. Like just a worst finish. Versus Maryland, who they stopped the losing skid to. So hopefully they make that 2 in a row. And then at the national champs, Ohio State, who I'm sure are going to be pretty good again this year, versus Penn State, another good team, who's like 2 steps ahead of us at least. But yeah, I mean, either way, though, it should be a good season. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I guess, and the last thing I did want to talk about, since this is kind of more of like an all sports stuff, is college football week 1. There's a lot of like really good out of conference matchups that has everyone excited. And yeah, I mean, I guess just to like go through a few of the top ones, we'll probably do like a preview and predictions like closer to that time. But since all of this is getting announced, I mean, Texas, Ohio State got denied the primetime slot, which would have been really fire because Texas wanted it to be a noon game. So it's Big Ten or big noon kickoff, but should be a really good one. And both teams settling in on new quarterbacks. It's going to be Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, really talented teams. But yeah, playoff rematch, and I feel like Texas was the team to probably play Ohio State the closest out of all the playoff matchups. Although Notre Dame did make a comeback, but two big powers going off week one, like that's going to be the game of the week. I know I'm going to be watching that, especially with Rutgers playing on Thursday against Ohio. Like it'll be a really good week one Saturday. Some other ones, I mean, you have LSU Clemson, Notre Dame, Miami, Alabama, Florida State. Although Florida State's like really not good, so that might just be like rolling them over. A good FCS FBS matchup, which I always love those for some reason. Montana State, who is the FCS runners-up, going against Oregon, who we'll see later at SHI. Syracuse had a good year going against Tennessee, who made the playoff. Georgia Tech, Colorado is interesting. Auburn, Baylor, Virginia Tech, South Carolina in Atlanta. That should be a good one too. But I mean, those are like the main big ones, I think. And then week 0, the kickoff game this year in Dublin is Iowa State, Kansas State. They call that one Farmageddon. So, and we just played Kansas State actually in the bowl game last year too. So, I guess what are your thoughts on some of these big games? I know like Texas, Ohio State is probably the biggest, but like I guess just your thoughts overall on that slate.
Honestly, everyone's like looking at that primetime fight. Everyone was like, "Oh, that should be a night game. Should be a night game." You know what? The Ohio State was willing to make it a night game. Even the media or the TV stations were willing to make it a night game. Texas blocked it for some reason. Like Texas administration, like the university administration said, "Yeah, no, we're not doing that."
It's really unfortunate.
I don't know why. I feel like that would have been really cool, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what
I do kind of like. I think that Syracuse might give Tennessee because people expecting that Syracuse to take a step back this year because a lot of their guys are aging out.
Mm-hmm.
Their recruits with Fran Brown haven't quite come up the pipeline yet. Sorry. However, I think that despite all of that, Syracuse gives Tennessee a shockingly good game. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but very good chance that could be a last drive, down to the wire type thing. That's just what I see because I think that Fran Brown might be one of the better tacticians in college football as well as one of the best recruiters.
I agree, and I think Syracuse, I mean, they had a heck of a season last year. They beat Miami. I think they won 10 games. They won their bowl game against Washington State, who is like not a slouch at all. So, I mean, last year they had Kyle McCord, but I mean, yeah, I think they're going to be in that game. Tennessee, I mean, obviously they had a good year. They made the playoff. They lost to Ohio State in the shoe. Given the way that Ohio State's regular season ended, I thought Tennessee had a really good chance at punching them in the mouth, but I was definitely wrong about that. So, a national title winners in the Bucks. But yeah, I think Syracuse is still a pretty solid team. They're going to live up to their billing, and I think they can give Tennessee a run for their money. I can't promise a win or anything like that, although it would be good because I feel like everyone just hates the SEC and loves to joke about that, and it would be pretty funny. But at the same time, I feel like it is going to be a really good matchup. It's orange versus orange too. So, but yeah, that should be, I think, the other game to really look out for. Syracuse, Tennessee is going to be really good. Obviously Ohio State, Texas is going to be the big game. And then, Notre Dame, Miami should be a good one too. I feel like, I think, Alabama, Florida State's probably more of just the name because Florida State isn't really all that good. And then I meant Montana State, Oregon for like the sickos. I think would be a pretty good one. Like I know I like that's a game. That's the type of game I'd be interested in. LSU Clemson is going to be.
Montana State, Oregon.
It's not a bad FCS team, but their Oregon's like on a different level. But I'll just probably whatever. That whole day I'm probably gonna be watching games. I might be like one the circle just to see it because Montana State actually did beat their I forget who they beat Nevada or like some really bad FBS team, but this is not gonna be the same thing.
That's not Nevada. That's Oregon.
Yeah, that's a whole nother, and they're very good. But yeah, LSU Clemson, that's the battle of the Death Valleys is going to be very interesting too. So like yeah, because
Battle of
Clemson's
the
typically the
Tigers.
best ACC team. Wait, what?
Battle of the Tigers.
Yeah, that too. That should be a really good one. I mean, I just love college football. Like, there's something about it. Like, Virginia Tech, South Carolina should be a good neutral site. We saw Virginia Tech last season beat them. Notre Dame, Miami should be a good one. And then the Monday night game, TCU UNC is an interesting non-conference matchup to end that slate. But yeah, no, I mean, especially with I guess Rutgers being done on Thursday, like that should be a fun weekend. And then week 0. Not really too much on that slate that's notable. I mean, Iowa State, Kansas State's going to be a good opener. Yeah, Fresno State, Kansas. There's not really too many good games in that week 0, but that's how it typically is. So Stanford's playing Hawaii. But yeah, I mean, anyway, college football a long way away. But I just thought that there was a lot of meat on the bone on that week 1 slate, so just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, NBA finals are set. Stanley Cup finals are set. Oh wait, no, NBA finals are not set. But the Thunder have
They're
punched their
going to
tickets.
reset after
After Saturday, right? Probably, most likely, yeah, I would say so. But the Thunder are in. The Pacers have 1 foot in there, but now they're up 3-2. The Knicks could still come back, so we'll see what happens there. Panthers-Oilers, the rematch is set, and yeah, of course, having some good baseball and college football talk as well. But in the meantime, this has been another episode of Sports Vibe, episode 89, with myself, Arnav Sarkar, and Andrew Rice. So as always, enjoy the weekend. We'll probably have the Bells Must Ring coming up soon, within the next few days. And until then, we will see you next time.
Have a good night, guys.